over to Mike, who
This
will be
meeting is
sharing
being recorded.
his experience, strength and hope of step 2. Mike, floor's all yours. Over to you. Can't hear you.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Okay. Hopefully that volume stays good. Although I don't know why it would want to be. My story's pretty boring. I started the timer, so we can get to some questions or your sharing, because that's much more exciting than my. Speaking of Maya, thank you, Maya, for giving me the opportunity to come and share a little about my experience. Strength and hope. Welcome to some of the newcomers and all the people who've been around a long time. This program is for those who are suffering from alcoholism. And it looks like there might be about 37 of us. Don't be fooled that there's anybody more important than anybody in Alcoholics Anonymous. We're all equal, thank God, because I came in here feeling inadequate, unworthy, alone, and afraid. By the way, I am a recovered alcoholic. My name is Mike. Power of God separated me from alcohol on the 1st of November of 1983. And it's that power that's kept me separated from alcohol in that time. But don't let that impress you, because absolutely, for 22 years, I would not have qualified as a recovered alcoholic. And the reason I do that today is because I believe and I follow everything that's in the big book. And when I say everything, I kind of mean everything. And it does tell me I've recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body. But again, 22 years, I was dying sober. This program is not about being sober. I found that out the hard way. It's a good beginning. Don't interpret me to say sobriety is essential. The second part of the first step is my life is unmanageable by me. There's the qualification I missed. There's the part I missed to moving on to being recovered. But let me back up a little bit. One of the things I really like to point out is, as an alcoholic, I'm going to read from page 10 in AA Comes of Age. I was just another alcoholic trying to get along under the grace of God. Forget me, but go you, and do likewise. Add your own link to our chain. With God's help, form that chain well and truly. Dr. Bob said those words. As we come up on June 10th, and we reflect on 35, June 10, Dr. Bob, and or when they stayed sober, the founding of Alcoholics Anonymous. God, can you imagine that? We're a link in that chain that has grown from that time to spread this message, especially the message of hope, the message of life for alcoholics who are suffering in these rooms, out of these rooms. First time here, 22 years sober, dying without an answer. So step 2, as I mentioned, I had to do step 1, and I've heard it said 100%, absolute, I had to. Yes, I did. And I didn't. There's 2 parts to it. Yes, I'm power sober alcohol. That was easy for me. That was easy. I stayed sober for 22 years with that admission, knowing I couldn't drink. But I couldn't make that my life is unmanageable by me. I love this one line in the 12 and 12. I don't refer to the 12 and 12 often, but I love this line in the 12 and 12, step 2. But let me read the step first. Came to believe that a power, capital P, greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And it says, how often have we heard them cry out, look what you people have done to us. I'm going to stop there, because you people didn't do anything. I mean, you convinced me, as it says, you've convinced me that I'm an alcoholic. No, you didn't have to convince me. My experience convinces me. And that our lives are unmanageable, it says. I mean, you people have, done to me. I did it to myself. I am a person who's afflicted with a physical allergy coupled with a mental illness. That happened to me. The first drink. It was that first drink that really did it. Because I took that first drink and I didn't stop. I didn't stop until actually October 31st, 83. I took 2 drinks that night. God, if you told me I was coming to Alcoholics Anonymous I knew I was coming the next day, but I knew if I had to stop, I might have drank more. I never took 2 drinks. But having said that, so I've been convinced. How have I been convinced? This book and reading this book. For so long, as I mentioned, for 22 years, I had no idea that I was a victim of an allergy, a physical allergy and a mental obsession that compelled me to drink. But that there was a next part of that. The only way to overcome those 2 things is the spiritual solution. As I read the step, came to believe that a power, capital P, could restore me to sanity. The most insane, one of my pals says, was one of the most insane thing I did. Well, 2 today, as I think about, coming into Alcoholics Anonymous and not ignoring the second part of that first step, but is sober. I took drinks again, having woken up in my barf again, or having landed in jail, taking that drink again.
Mike, you're muted.
Am I back? Okay, thanks. So the most, same thing I did was after, throwing up on myself, and getting drunk again, landing in jail, is I'm not going to drink again, but drinking again. There's insanity. That's how I define insanity. And I had no idea until you presented it to me. To present me with the idea that there is a solution. And that solution is spiritual in nature. My life is unmanageable by me. Do I believe that? Do I accept that? Will I move on with that belief that only a spiritual solution will help? Because my solution didn't help. I don't know what you all tried, but I tried many things. The big book up until page 43, which is over half plus the 11, I think it's 11 pages in the doctor's opinion, 54 pages, emphasizes how important it is that those first 2 steps are ingrained in me. I believe, because it gets to 44 and it asks me those questions in terms of, have I been convinced? If when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably an alcoholic. Then it says, to be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live on a spiritual basis are not always easy alternatives to face. You present me with that alternative. Okay, I'm going to take the one on the spiritual basis. I didn't do that for 22 years. I wasn't presented with it, and I didn't want it. Anyway, I didn't want it. I wanted to run my own life. How insane was that? As an alcoholic, I stopped drinking and wanted to run my own life. Walking around asleep, thinking I'm awake. One of my favorite Mark Houstonisms. If you've never heard of Mark Houston talk, find one tonight or tomorrow before I don't know, before whatever, but listen to Mark Houston talk. Walking around asleep in Alcoholics Anonymous, thinking I'm awake. And there's probably a few of you out there today. What does that mean? It means the spiritual solution is not for me. because of whatever, because of my prejudice, because I can't believe that, because I have these old beliefs. This is a spiritual program, not a religious program, and it highlights it in the front of this book. We're not talking about religion. If that's bogging you down, wipe it away. We're talking about, why does the sun rise? Why does the sun set? We're talking about, go out and stop the ocean, Mike. Well, I can't do that. There must be a power greater than yourself. Oh, there probably is then. There's a power greater than me, because the sun rises in the morning and sets at night. That power is the power that now today is in charge of my life through the workings and principles in the steps, as I come to believe that a power greater than myself can and will restore me to sanity if I allow him. And that's only, but here's the second step. Can I believe that? If such a power existed. There it is. It's just a question. If such a power existed, and I pointed to two examples, right? Well, there must be a different power than me, because the sun rises and the sun sets. Okay, I'll agree to that. It's just a conversation, a quick conversation. But the big thing is to put that into motion, to how do I show you? And that's the key. How do I show you that I believe that power exists? I start to do the work in 3 and 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But that's the beginning. Step 2 is that beginning after making that admission, my life is unmanageable by me. Okay, I'm yours. I'll do whatever. And whatever it is right here. There's no guesswork to it. There's no imagination to it. It's right here in this book. If I say anything, or if someone tells you, you have to do this or this, and it's not in this big book, ignore them. Ignore them. Because this is the instructions on how to recover from alcoholism. Yeah, I didn't recover from alcoholism. I was in untreated alcoholism for 22 years, dying. I sometimes wonder why I lived through those 22 years. I do. I sometimes wonder. I realize today why he kept me around long enough, so that I could carry this message that's in Alcoholics Anonymous. And as I show you Alcoholics Anonymous, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. Our society, our meeting, sprouted out of the name of this book, which was named Alcoholics Anonymous. So there's no chance, or there's no imagination to what is Alcoholics Anonymous. And it is the big book. It is the big book. And the precise instructions in there allow me to recover, allow me to then grow. I didn't grow for 22 years. I didn't do anything in Alcoholics Anonymous, hence I could not grow. Okay, I shouldn't say that. I did a 4th step and a 5th step. Pretty miserable one. I made amends, and then I did the same things over and over again. I tried to be a husband. I tried to be a son, and I made those, but I couldn't. I had no principles to live upon. It says that if a mere motive quote that, let me get the exact. If a mere code of morals or ethics was, or better philosophy of life were sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. That's chapter 4, we agnostics. So I was 20, I was through those 22 years. I thought I could have a philosophy of living that, I'm sober. I thought I had good morals. thought and it says that again. It repeats that. Page 62, where it talks about selfishness, self-centeredness. So you removed me from alcohol. And by the way, alcohol was my solution. When I took that first drink at whatever age, excuse me, whatever age it was, you got me still? A phone call came in. Okay. You removed alcohol from me. But no, I was a young kid, took that first drink and it solved all my problems. Alcohol solved my problems. Inadequate, unworthy, alone, and afraid. My problem. Solved my problem with alcohol. Take away alcohol at age 21. Inadequate, unworthy, alone, and afraid. How do I overcome that? What do I need to do to live? Because I had no idea. My solution was taken away. Removing alcohol is a great start. But my unmanageability is how I have a life today. My unmanageability is where I get a design for living, as it says on page 27, that allows me to start to have a life. And to continue to have a life, I need to be living in the principles and disciplines of 10, 11, 12. But those disciplines don't come about without acceptance of two. Come to believe there is a power greater than me. The trees, the sunshine, these people, and being willing to say, okay, God, my life's in your hands. That acceptance of three, that prayer in step 3, relieve me of the bondage of self so that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties. I still have difficulties today, but he can take them away so that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. So again, that critical step 2 came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Because I truly am insane. I did insane things, probably more insane things from age 21 to age 43 than I did in the first. And my mom would tell you, for my first 21 years, I did some pretty insane things. And I can tell you, I can add to it. But from 21 to 43, and you look at these principles and you look at these steps in this program, I was doing everything opposite because I didn't want to do the work. I didn't want the effort. So in order to continue, I need to have that acceptance and move to 3, 4, 5. Because if I don't do that work, the insanity of being dishonest, the insanity of selfishness, the insanity of intolerance, those are the insane things I can do today that don't treat my alcoholism, that send me right back into untreated alcoholism and may lead me to drink. I don't know why I didn't drink in 22 years. I don't know why I'm not dead after 22 years of untreated alcoholism. I did things back then. I should be dead. Dishonesty can kill me. Absolutely can kill me. I've known people who stone cold sober blew their brains out. Maybe some of you did too. Why would they do that? I can't handle the mental obsession that only the spiritual solution can relieve me of. I can't handle the mental illness I have, and it is a mental illness. I can't handle it without the spiritual solution. So I have to, again, from step 2, have that belief as I go through the rest of my days, my life, and the workings of 10. Because that believing came to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity grows as I live in the principles and the disciplines of 10, 11, 12. And I need to start, when I work with guys, when I suggest how do we get a spiritual experience, we got to go to work on 10, 11, 12 right away. Because what's going to keep the real alcoholic from a drink or from doing insane things is that spiritual solution. And however haltingly, however slow, whatever the beginning looks like, that is what needs to happen in order to keep me from the drink, whether it's day 1 or day 39 years and X amount of days. The spiritual solution continues to grow my belief, continues to grow the fact that, wow, look at the kind of life I have today. By being honest, by trusting God and asking for help, by being removed from selfish, self-centered behaviors that directed and guided my life for so long. I need to overcome, again, the selfishness. Again, it was what drove those behaviors. As it says in step 3, once I said, okay, here's God, now I'm not being selfish anymore. I can recognize the selfishness that was driving my life. I can start to see how selfish each decision, each action, as I look at what is holding me in bondage of self, and how do I be of use to God and others? Because ultimately, as we go through this life, for me, the real joy is not the selfish behaviors that I'm presented with on the daily. It's those selfless behaviors, those self-sacrificing behaviors that Bill pointed out on page 15. At the bottom of 14, he says, for if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. Low spots come in my life, have come. How do I behave? How do I react? When my dad passes away, how do I react? Well, I'll tell you, I wanted to run and hide. I wanted to give you this, and it's all about me, and but I went out and helped my mom. Went out, was there for my sister. And what about me? Don't I get mine? No, the self-sacrifice, for my aunt who was in a home assisted living and then a full care facility, visiting her as often as I could. Now I think why didn't I visit her more? Because she's gone today. I can look back and say, the things I did for her, thank you, God, for being awake enough to go visit her when I didn't want to. Oh, God, she's going to do this again. She's going to say this again. Okay. She's gone today. I wish she could say this and that again and bore me. But it was a joy that I got to do that. It's a joy that I get to be here today and have a spiritual experience that I wouldn't be having without this. Because these spiritual experiences that I've been awakened to through the workings of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The joy I get, the spiritual experiences I have are today. Some of you may be in June 8th. I think it's June 7th here in where I'm at in Oregon, USA. Maybe it's June 8th. I don't know, but it's 12:30 in the afternoon on June 7th. I'm 60 years old. I'll never live this moment again here with you all. There's how many of us here? There's 41 of us. Never, ever. No, never, ever will we be in this spot again with you all at this moment. A spiritual experience that maybe I'm saying something that helps another. It helps another have a spiritual experience to start to do the work, make the effort that Alcoholics Anonymous presents to us, an opportunity to make effort to continue to grow spiritually. Because as I continue to grow spiritually, I see those spiritual experiences for what they are. Each moment. What does it say and how it works? That one is God. May you find him when? Now. When is now? The only constant in life is, and the only thing that never changes in life is what? Now. Now never changes. The future, the past, whatever. But now, if I'm living and able to see the now and be in the now through the spiritual experience that I've begun through, there is a God, it's not me. There is a power greater than myself, it's not me. That can not only give me a life worth living, again, as it restores me to sanity, and I have been restored to sanity. I'm told that in the big book also. I didn't know there were promises throughout this big book. I did not know that. I mean, there are. And one of the greatest set of promises is page 84, the bottom of 84. And that paragraph that starts, we cease fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. Now, there's a reason why it says anything or anyone dash, even alcohol. Because the alcohol question is behind me. Alcohol is not my problem, as we can see, 39 years removed from it. Okay, but if I fight anything or anybody, there's some insanity for you, right? I haven't put God in charge. But even more importantly, I start to understand, for by this time sanity will have returned, it says. I have been restored to sanity. I can stay restored to sanity through the workings of page 84 to 88, through what it says to do in those pages. As it says in there, what does it mean? Is it easy to live on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels? What does it mean? It means I do and make the effort daily of turning my will and my life over to a power greater than myself. A power that knows how I can live better than I can. Sometimes I even have a problem with choosing what to eat. I mean, that's how insane I can be. Now, it's not going to maybe kill me that I eat that half gallon of ice cream, but it's sure not the best decision. It may be an insane decision. I can suffer the consequences, maybe. But see how that works is I've been awakened to knowing today how to live my life, having choices that are either Mike's will or God's will. And in step 3, it tells me I only have 2 things I can do today. 2 wills, God's will or Mike's will, as I roll through this life, as I live this life. But I can't be awakened to that unless I accept there's a power greater than myself. And it's not me. There's a power greater than myself. Let me look back at that first step and see what I was doing and how well I was doing running my life. Today, because of the power of God, because of Alcoholics Anonymous, I have been given a life. I've been granted a power greater than myself that I keep seeking and searching for, that gives me a life worth living, where I can live through the ups and downs, match calamity with serenity, live to a peaceful existence amongst people, all people. Self-sacrifice and believing that helping others is my biggest and my best way to be happy, joyous, and free today is because of Alcoholics Anonymous and all you. I want to thank you all and thank Maya for the opportunity. Hopefully I've said something that helps someone. God bless you all. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mike. That was amazing. As always, I've heard you share so many times and, you never disappoint. Would you all like to unmute and come in and thank Mike for his amazing share? Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Really, really insightful. It was awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so In line with our tradition 7, every AA group should be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. Please make contributions to our meeting's PayPal account. The details should be found in the chat, and it's coming up on the screen right now. Before we open for sharing, next week's speaker is Anne W., sharing on the topic of step 3. You do not want to miss this. I will now open the meeting for questions and general sharing. Please direct your questions to our speaker, Mike, and feel free to share back. And just before I open the meeting up for general sharing, I would just like to say, Mike, wow, that was amazing. Do you know what really, really struck a chord with me was when you said the sun rises and the sun sets, you know, and when I first came into AA and my faith was broken, I thought, how was I going to be saved? How was I going to be saved? How was this God going to save me? And, you know, I remember somebody saying to me, well, you have a creator. You've come from somewhere, how do you think you got here? How do you think this place was created? The universe, and she really got me thinking. And then, when I sat down and I looked at my insanity, because you talked about insanity a lot. And when I look back at my insanity, how am I still alive? Do you know what I mean, Mike? How am I still alive? How am I still here? What has been saving me all this time? And every alcoholic I speak to that comes in new through those doors, I say to them, if you listen to anyone's step 1 and you talk about your step 1 and your powerlessness and your insanity, there is something there. There is an energy. There is a creator. There is something there that has saved us, and absolutely. What else was I just wanted to say, when I came in, coming to believe, my life was broken, and for me to hand that broken life over and say, whoever you are, please help me, and in return, you talked about those steps and I worked those steps. And in return, what did I get? I got a life beyond my wildest dreams. I prayed for a rose, and my higher power, God, gave me a whole garden full of roses. I got so much more than I could ever have dreamed of. And that's how, when we come into AA and we're like, God, we're miracles. We are absolute miracles. We've recovered from that hopeless state of body and mind, and this is, we come to believe. And I follow you around and I've heard you so many times, and I absolutely love listening to you. Beautiful message. And I just want to now open up the sharing for general sharing. Please come back and share with Mike as he has shared with you. Can we keep our shares to a minimum of 2 minutes? And Mike, feel free to answer any questions. All right, so I will now open the meeting for general sharing. If you'd like to raise your virtual hand, sharing's now open. Thank you. Candice, would you like to come in and share?
I would absolutely love to. Hey, my name is Candice. I'm an alcoholic. Super grateful to be here. Thanks everyone who is doing the service work to make the meeting happen. And thank you so much, Mike, for coming in and sharing your experience, strength, and hope on step 2. I'm also a fan of Mike and follow him around and hang out with him. And, everything he says always strikes a chord for me. And I love hearing more and more about, how this happens, how it just, if we're not fighting it, we allow it to happen, it does. And that's what I've been struggling with, but I do know it to be true, and like he said at the beginning, if there's nothing that can be rectified in the book, ignore it. And that's what I love, because he comes straight out of that book. He gives us his experience, strength, and hope as it applies to that book, and brings the knowledge, like he says, brings the inspiration from others that he also listens to, and makes it apply. And that's what I love about it. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to thank him for coming in, and thanks for the invite. Love you all, and thank you.
Thanks, Candice. Kerry, would you like to come in and share?
Hi, yeah, Kerry, alcoholic. Thank you all for your service and for everybody who's made this meeting possible. Yeah, I just, you know, I think that was an absolutely great chair. I really related to much of that. I think the, you know, addicts, you know, of all sorts, you know, have something in common, and there is common ground there, and there are common stories. And yeah, I related to a lot of those. I think for me, kind of step one in particular, I mean, step two and step one are kind of taken together. And I did them together when I was in rehab last year.